Alright, guys, how's everybody doing? Hope everyone had a great week. And here I'm reviewing my second playoff rankings for 2018. Sorry I'm getting a little late getting to them. I have just been so busy with work and other stuff of life, but I'm just now getting around to it. I don't know when this will be uploaded. It might be uploaded when the next football playoff rankings are released, but I think the last time it took, 3 days to upload. I mean, just living in Wyoming is just, it's so hard with internet connection, all that stuff. But I'm going to do a very quick video here on my college football playoff rankings for week 11 now. Can't believe it's already middle November now. It seems like this football season flies every time. But I'm going to do my playoff rankings and see what you guys think. So number one is Alabama. You know, guys, I think they're clearly the best team in the country. I thought maybe LSU might beat Alabama, but I was not sold on it. But I didn't think it'd be 29-0. I mean, Alabama just came to Baton Rouge and just destroyed them. It made him sound like Bryant Denny of Baton Rouge, pretty much. I'm going to rename LSU Stadium to Bryant Denny Baton Rouge, because it seems like Alabama just whoops LSU every time out. I think they have not scored on home against Alabama in the last 2 games, I believe. So, I think the 2016 game, I believe, was 10-0, and then this past year, this past week, 29-0. Alabama just whooped LSU. I mean, there's no way I could say it. I mean, it just made all of us experts look like idiots, pretty much. And I hate to say it, but I think Alabama's just sucking all the oxygen out of college football this year. I didn't think in other years, but I think this year it is. They're not even giving teams contests this year. I don't really see how any team can beat this Alabama team with Tua as their quarterback, Nick Saban. I just don't see it. Number two, I could possibly maybe see is Clemson, but I think they've looked just about as dominant as Alabama, but still, it's going to take a world-class miracle, I think, for any team to beat Alabama, I think, this year. Number three is Notre Dame. I think this was debatable for me. I had Notre Dame 3 because they beat Michigan in week 1, but it's all in a head-to-head. And number 4, I have Michigan. I think Michigan has looked very impressive, honestly, since their loss to Notre Dame in week 1. And they've just been throttling teams, destroying teams since week 1. I mean, they gave Wisconsin nothing. They gave Penn State nothing. I mean, you look at it. I mean, they have just throttled teams. Number 5, I have Georgia. And that's what the rankings said. They have looked better. Ever since the loss to LSU, they had a nice win over Florida. They have a nice win over Kentucky, over a very good Kentucky team. And I just think Georgia is, I think, the team that Alabama's probably going to face in the SEC title. 6 through 10, I didn't get any surprises. Number 6, I have Oklahoma. And number 7, I have LSU. I thought LSU might drop lower, honestly. Even behind UCF. I was just not at all impressed by LSU against Alabama. I thought that'd be a much more competitive game than it was, but it turned out it wasn't at all. So that's why it's number 7, but they do have good wins over Auburn. They have a win over Georgia, and Mississippi State, and I guess that's why they're at number 7. Number 8 is Washington State. Washington State does have a loss to USC. USC's not looking that great, but it was only by 3 points. So, and it was a respectable one. And they have looked pretty impressive. Gardner Minshew, I think, has been the story for this Washington State team. West Virginia is at number 9. And they do have a loss to Iowa State. But they do have a nice home win over Texas. Excuse me, that was on the road at Texas. But West Virginia is looking pretty solid as well. That nice win over Texas really helps. And if they do win out, I think I would even bump them ahead of Washington State. I think with a better resume. Number 10, I have Ohio State. If you've looked at Ohio State the last 2 weeks, they have not looked good. I mean, getting blown out by Purdue and almost getting beat by a Nebraska team that's rebuilding. I just think Ohio State's got a lot of themselves to prove, but they do have some good games coming up. They have Michigan State this week, and then they have a home game against Michigan that will really help their resume. If they beat Michigan State, they might move ahead of Washington State and West Virginia. And if they beat Michigan, I think they might even be ahead of Georgia, maybe at number 5. But I just don't really see Ohio State making it to the college football playoff just because of that horrible loss they had to Purdue. All right, and then 11 is Kentucky. Kentucky had a loss to Georgia this week, but I really think that teams are really starting to figure out how to stop Kentucky. Kentucky's offense isn't that great, but Kentucky's defense, they can play with just about anybody. They lost to Georgia this week, but that doesn't prove that they aren't a good football team. They are a good football team. And they have a loss to Texas A&M, but Kentucky has nice wins over Mississippi State. They beat Florida. They beat Florida for the first time in 31 years. So that's why they're at number 11. And number 12, I have UCF. UCF didn't look that great against Temple. I saw a part of that game on TV, and I just think that UCF didn't look that great. But if they win out, they'll probably be the representative of the group of 5 in the New Year's 6. Syracuse, how about an impressive season for them? Number 13 in the country. Dino Babers is doing a very good job with that program. Number 14, I have NC State. They're going to lose. They're going to drop a bunch. They lost a very tough game to Wake. Wake isn't that impressive. And maybe Wake may have waked up the NC State Wolfpack. And, but I don't know what it was, but they did not look good at all last week against Wake. But NC State, they did lose to Clemson. They lost to Syracuse. I think they're really starting to take impress of the fact that how good Clemson is. Because Clemson lost a big... Clemson destroyed NC State. And maybe that's why they're at 14. I don't know. But NC State, I was looking at their schedule. They haven't really beaten anybody real good. Number 15 is Florida. Yes. I know they didn't do too good against Missouri last week, but they still have a very impressive resume. They beat LSU. They beat Mississippi State. They played Georgia tough in a close game. Dan Mullen has done a very good job in his first season at Florida, I believe, in my opinion. Number 16 is Mississippi State. They do have an impressive wins over Texas A&M. And Boston College is at number 17. But they'll be tested this week for sure against Clemson, though. And they do have a nice win over Virginia Tech, does Boston College. I was watching part of that game, and they did look pretty good against Virginia Tech. Maybe that's why they're at number 17. Number 18, they had Michigan State. I don't know why Michigan State's ranked at number 18. Yes, they have been playing better, but their losses to Arizona State and Northwestern really is a shrugger mind. But I guess that win over Penn State really helped. And I guess that's why they're at 18. 19 is Texas. The Longhorns, I don't know why they're at number 19. Yes, they do have a good win over Oklahoma. I will give them credit for that, but they have played USC, which has looked horrible. TCU has looked horrible. Kansas State has looked horrible. They have beaten a lot of teams that they should have beaten, honestly. And they played Maryland. They lost to Maryland, and they're not doing so good either. I think they have 4 losses now. And they lost to Oklahoma State. I think they've lost 4 games now. And Texas just barely beating Baylor, barely beating Kansas State. They haven't looked too impressive outside of that game over Oklahoma, though. And number 20 is Penn State. They do have a nice win over Iowa, but outside of that, their next closest win might be Indiana, maybe, or Pitt. Pitt's not looking too bad of a win now for Penn State. Pitt is doing okay, but I think Penn State they did not look good at all against Michigan. And Michigan just really took it to them. And like I said earlier, I think the committee is really respecting on how Michigan looks. That's why they're at number 20. And then 21 through 25, Iowa at number 21. And they did have a head-to-head matchup win over Iowa State, but Iowa, they don't really have that impressive of a schedule. They do have wins maybe over... Next one might be Minnesota, maybe, or Indiana. I mean, a lot of these teams, I looked at the pattern, is that they have not looked their best. But I think the committee is really looking at how these teams have looked, rather than their resume. And if it was the other way, it might be the resume. I definitely don't think Iowa should be ranked in the top 25. I actually thought they would drop out. I thought Utah State might jump in, and I don't think the committee is respecting how good Utah State is. So I think that's what my theory is there. And I still don't know why Iowa State is ranked high as 22. Because, like I said, they do have that nice win over West Virginia. And I guess their losses to Oklahoma and Iowa weren't bad. But still, that loss to TCU is a head-scratcher. TCU's not looking that great. So I don't know why there. And Fresno State, they've looked pretty solid. They have a loss to Minnesota, which has not looked good, but outside of that, they've not looked too bad. Number 24 is Auburn, and I thought they might be a little bit higher, but I guess the committee is really taking in the fact that they lost to Tennessee, and Tennessee's not looking that great, but Auburn has looked better the last 2 games by beating Ole Miss, and then they got a huge home win over Texas A&M. I think the first time in the SEC that the home team has won in the Auburn-Texas A&M series, which was stunning to me. And number 25 is Washington. So I don't really have much to say on that, but those are my top 25 rankings released by the committee. Let me know what you think, and hope to get back on this earlier next week, and hopefully things won't be quite as busy next week with work, but I'm not sure. It's getting into being a very hectic time of year for me, but I will try and keep you guys updated on that. But hope you have a good weekend, and hope you guys watch some football, and I hope to post this earlier, like I said. And if you want to have any comments or like what teams you want to do, you can comment on this video in YouTube. And hope to talk to you guys next week. Hope you have a good weekend and see you all next week.